So as of yesterday afternoon, the LA Times was reporting that at least 5 people have died in the fires raging across Los Angeles. Officials believe that the actual numbers are much higher than that. Thousands of homes have been destroyed. There is zero containment at this point. Over 130,000 people are under evacuation orders. The freeways are parking lots. It's absolutely out of control. With it not even contained and heading towards Los Angeles, it is projected to possibly be the costliest wildfire disaster in history. Now, I mean, there's a tendency when things like this happen to rush to politics, and that's understandable. There are questions that need to be answered. Why does this keep happening in California? And why do the people of California keep putting up with it? Why is California never prepared? You would think California would be prepared for wildfires, right? I'm going to address part of that first. But first, let me tell you about Mercury One. As usual, one of the first responders there is Mercury One. We are collaborating with multiple partners to get food and supplies to those who need it most. We're working with churches on the ground. Yes, there are some. We're working with the nonprofits. If you would like to help the relief effort, go to mercury1.org and contribute to the relief effort. A lot of work that needs to get done and a lot of work that has to happen quickly. By the way, so you know, and I'm going to give you all the information on this later, in North Carolina, while the president is saying that he's going to take care of everybody in Los Angeles, don't worry about it. Checks are on the way, and the government's going to cover absolutely everything. While he was saying that, Mercury One was on the phone doing a transaction with several hotels to pay for people who have nothing and got their big $700 check from the government. They were being kicked out, and I think we've put them up now for another 6 or 7 weeks. So, you know, what isn't used in California, or they don't need in California, they still need in other disaster areas, and we are there. So go to mercury1.org and help if you can. Now, many questions have to be asked and answered. Story came out yesterday, and I believe it's a pretty chilling example of what's to come in California if it continues to be as crazy, and it's going to be a blueprint for the rest of the country unless we all wake up. The story from the Daily Mail reads, quote, Governor Gavin Newsom's infuriating reaction after being asked why fire hydrants ran out of water during the LA fires. Now, the fire hydrants ran dry right as firefighters were going to try to contain the breakout. Now, this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it happened. And what was Governor Newsom's response? I'm going to read the quote and try not to lose your breakfast when you hear it. Quote, well, local folks are going to have to try to figure that out. That's going to be determined by local authorities. Wait a minute, hang on just a second. So the guy who holds the highest political office in California, who is constantly meddling in every single person's personal life, who loves big government, more than comfortable with the phrase, trust us, we're the government, we know better, we're here to help. The rubber meets the road. He's been doing all the deals with water, and he has the balls to look at the camera and go, what do you want from me? You know, it's those guys. You talk to your local person. I have nothing to do with it. No, sir. That's not the way you people have set California up. California's water situation, I mean, we've talked about this for years. Years we've talked about it. It is interesting to look at it because it is exactly what the Biden administration was doing with public-private partnerships. It's all public-private partnerships. And we've talked about this before. We first started seeing these spoken out loud in places like the World Economic Forum, and then later federally canonized in an official White House document from the Biden administration. But what do public-private partnerships have to do with water hydrants in the Palisades? drying up in the middle of the most costliest wildfire disaster in American history. Well, I recently saw Anna Kasparian send out a tweet on X, straight up dunking on Democratic leadership in California. She said the Democrats were responsible for this disaster. No more passing the buck, she said. Anna quote tweeted a video from an organization called More Perfect Union. The tweet from the video states, quote, "One billionaire couple owns all the water in California. In 1994, the Resnicks secretly seized control of California's public water supply. Now their companies use over 150 billion gallons every year, while working-class people suffer under drought conditions." Now, the video goes on to demonize Resnick and the family and the business conglomerate for owning a vast amount of California water. Now, I'm not letting this California company off the hook, okay? But this is the response that always happens from the left. They treat corporations all across the spectrum the same way. And you see it in healthcare, food production, pharmaceuticals, on and on and on. It is never the government's fault. It's those damn corporations. It's always the corporation. Well, the corporations, a lot of people were mad when Donald Trump said, in the debate in 2016, well, how much taxes did you pay? He said exactly the amount I was supposed to pay. Well, you didn't pay, income tax on this or this. And he's like, you want me to pay more taxes? Then you have to change the law. I am operating in the system you've gamed. And everybody does this. So don't try to stick me out because I'm rich. This is the way the income tax code works. And he's right. Well, they're doing the same thing with these corporations. They make it so you can public-private partnership. They make it so you can go in and game the system, and everybody's taking their share. All of it. You know why people aren't talking about Panama, the Panama Canal run by China now? You know why you never heard that? Because all of the politicians, most of them on both sides, were taking money from China. So they're never going to say anything. But now that China is bad, now that that's been exposed, I'm shocked that Donald Trump is actually exposing it, because it's going to expose the graft on all sides. And I'm happy about that. It's never the government's fault. May I propose? Maybe there's a little bit more to the story here. Let's stick with California water here. How did one family get into a position where they hold the keys to a vast amount of the state's water? Well, the video goes into it. Listen.
In 1994, state water officials, water infrastructure contractors, and agricultural landowners with water rights arranged a secretive meeting at a resort in Monterey Bay, California. These groups, a mix of private companies and public agencies, rewrote California's water rules without any input from voters, taxpayers, or legislators. The new rules, called the Monterey Plus Agreement or the Monterey Amendments, were devastating for working Californians, and great for agriculture billionaires.
Okay, this is going to make you very, very happy. Let's stop here for a second. Is it really only good for the agricultural billionaires and bad for the voters? Were the giants of agriculture the only ones at this, quote, secretive table? No. Now, they tried to make it sound like, well, there was no legislator there. There was no government officials. Well, it's interesting, because corporations don't write laws. Or do they? Can you get things done without your congressman or senator being involved at all? Yes, you can, through the administrative state. Exactly what conservatives have been saying about the United States government. This way, there's no one to blame. The members of the California Assembly can all say, I didn't have anything to do with this. And they didn't. They just set the system up to be run by a bunch of bureaucrats who can make the deals for them. So who was joined in this secret table conversation? State water officials. That's who. So in 1994, the Resnicks didn't twist their mustachios while simultaneously screwing over the state. And I'm going to tie Nell to the railroad tracks too. They were given this deal. They were made public-private partners with the lawmakers in California. Now, after this deal was struck, water control in times of shortage went to the agricultural conglomerates and first, and then the urban areas like the Palisades second. You got a problem with that? Well, who are you going to take it up with? The unnamed water officials that made this deal? No, it should be with the elected officials. So there's someone you can go to and say, wait a minute, you made this deal. This is a corrupt deal, or this is a deal not in the best interest of the people. We're voting you out. But see, progressives don't like accountability. Progressives make it so the agencies have all of the power. Is this California? Is this starting to maybe come together now for you? You're starting to understand? That's why we say the deep state is bad, because they can get into all these public-private partnerships and do deals, and no one is accountable for it. And then when it falls apart, then when people die, that's when all of the government officials come out with their cronies in the media and say, wow, we had no idea. This is wrong. Those Resnicks, bad. Well, they might be. I don't know. They might be bad. But who sat at the table and put that deal together? So all the money that is exchanging hands here isn't just good for the private businesses. Oh, man, it is good for public lawmakers as well. Let's go back to the video. Cut 2.
The Resnicks donate millions of dollars to politicians and research institutions, which help them secure control over water systems, and even get more water and more taxpayer funding. One important project is the proposed California Delta Tunnel, a taxpayer-funded project which would send water from Northern California to Central, where the Resnicks farms are. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on state and federal legislation and politicians who support the tunnel project. But their favorite politician is Senator Dianne Feinstein.
You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway.
Chair of the Energy and Water Subcommittee. She's a close personal friend of the Resnicks, attending their holiday parties in Aspen and maintaining their financial interests. A quick look through the bills she sponsored shows several which would direct money to Kern-adjacent water projects. The Resnicks even ask her for things directly. When a pesky study about endangering salmon and shad fisheries threatened the Delta Tunnel, Stewart wrote a letter to Feinstein demanding a new study. She immediately forwarded it to the Obama administration, who agreed to spend $750,000 on a new study.
Yeah, a study came out the same way. So we saved the shad fishes. I don't know. I know that one of the reasons why Palisades is burning down is because we had to save the smelt. And who doesn't like a good smelt from time to time? Okay, you buy the politicians, then you buy off the experts, you buy off the Senate, the scientists, and you put it all together, and then you bring it to some bureaucrat, and they shut down the water. That's what's happening in California. Oh, well, that and the fact that, remember, one of the last forest fires was blamed on the electrical companies because they had a transformer blow, and, well, that just never happens, and it started a wildfire. And so, what did they do? This time, when there was a wildfire, the electrical company said, we don't want to make this worse, shut down the power. Well, when they shut down the power, that also shut down the pumps at the water pumping stations. So they couldn't pump any water if they had any water. And Gavin Newsom actually addressed this yesterday, and he said, we've talked to the White House, and we're having generators shipped out here as fast as we can get. You don't even have generators at your water pumping station? What the hell? I mean, how did you not think this? How? What was your plan? I would love to see their plan. But this just explains what you're seeing in California is exactly what is set up by the progressive left all over the country. It also explains how corrupt government officials and their crony relationships are destroying more than just California. It describes what's happened to American healthcare. It explains what's currently happening with big pharmaceutical companies, big food, the media, the border, the homeless problem. In blue states all across the country, see California? That's what you're going to get. Public-private partnerships are poisoning the soul of our country. They're also causing some to turn violent. The stage is being set for the coming insurrection. If you know what that means, I don't use that lightly. Taxpayers give their money to the government. The government then goes into business with private partners. The money and the profit stays in their lucrative little circle. But when anything goes south, who gets the blame? It's not the government. They get off scot-free. Progressive leftists will pin the blame solely on the corporation. Or when it comes to water, Gavin Newsom tried to pin it on the local people. I don't know. You're going to have to talk to the local people. What does the local person have to do with the water coming out of the water fire hydrant? What do they have to do with that? They sit back and laugh over and over again. I think it's done. We're going in deep on this on Blaze TV very soon. But I think this is a turning point. You know, who had on their bingo card the complete and total destruction of the second largest city in the country as the turning point for progressives? And if they don't turn on this one, man, what is it going to take? The moon coming crashing through your roof of your house that's been painted? Wake up! Would that do it? Maybe. Space aliens, they took out their little drones and they spray painted the moon, wake up, and California still didn't wake up, so they just started dragging the moon closer and closer and closer to your house in California. My gosh, wake up, California. I think they are. But will they just replace Gavin Newsom with somebody else exactly like this? Or will they start to wake up and say, wait a minute, our government is corrupt. It's making deals that don't actually help or represent the people of California. They may not have our best interest at heart.